contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
In the desert night, Bigfoot roaming out of sight. Government shadows, secrets deep, conspiracies unfold while we sleep. Strange encounters unexplained, truth is out that really chain. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling history, stories untold. Area 51, a whispered name. UFO sightings, a haunting flame. Loch Ness monster, a watery myth. Cryptozoology, a curious gift. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out there, bravely changed. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Skeptics doubt, believers yearn for answers hidden yet to learn. In the twilight zone where logic ends, the search continues with all hands. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out there, bravely chained. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Truth is out there. Truth is out there.
And welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Getting a few things squared away here, so bear with me for just a moment. And we have trying to get everybody back on the screen. Still trying to figure out all these new transitions since we have like videos and stuff now. So it'll take me a minute, but I'm getting there. All right, so we're back. We're live. It's Juxtaposition. We've been on a break. I would like to say that I was abducted by aliens since we have a resident alien on staff, who again I would like to thank for the opening music and video you just saw, because that was all him.
Yeah, that's awesome. I enjoyed it.
We have our own. We have our own
every
official
time I
opening
hear it.
theme. We have our own official opening theme now. We're cool.
Right?
I mean, we were cool before, but now we're super cool.
No,
Anyway,
you're cool.
so I'm Rick. He's Ordy. This is Juxtaposition, and we have a guest tonight. You may recognize him from Talk Murder to Me. He's coming over to do the whole unusual, unexplainable thing with us tonight here on Juxtaposition, our every 2-week foray into the same, because we're talking about Bigfoot and not erotica, so don't freak out too much.
For a change.
For a change. Hey, Daniel, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing?
If I was any better, it'd probably be illegal, but you know, there's that. I do have booze tonight, so I have my drink of choice tonight is a bit of Jack Daniel's Devil's Cut, so that's what we're going with for tonight.
It's always a good choice.
So,
And I'm with my stock 805 that helps the throat. California beer because, you know, superior.
I just got Borno coffee, so. But cheers, guys.
You'll learn, yeah.
Saturday night, man. There's no point in doing a podcast without booze. Saturday night. All right.
So anyway. Yeah, you said it's been. I mean, this has just been trying to get a show together for the last month has been problematic. Hard.
It's been hard, yo. Not good.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, the forces of the universe were aligning against us. I really think, for some reason, they do not want that. Are we living in a simulation episode to air with you, me, Cats, Mickey, and Jeff?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, because we've tried to do that so many times, and things keep getting in the way. But we're here now tonight. We're back. We're talking Bigfoot,
the hairy man.
Well, wait. We didn't say we were going to make the show all about you. We said we were going to talk about Bigfoot. Right. All right. Anyway, so all right. So I mean, we've done I almost said primer, but Ordy prefers primer. So we've done a
No,
primer on Bigfoot before. But it's been a minute, so I figured we might as well kind of start from the beginning. So I don't know, Ken.
Yes.
You're the guest. What do you want to throw out first?
Well, I think Sasquatch is probably the walking dog, if you will, of cryptids. There's a version of him in every country, on every continent around the world. There's probably a reason for that. It's a lot of people think about the film. What is it? The Gibbler film in 50. What year was that? 58 or something, or 60 something.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, that was, like you say, sometime between 58 and 62. My memory wants to put it right in that time frame. Yeah.
And that was in California, and that's when it really took off. And a lot of people think that was the beginning of Bigfoot, But if you look back, there's legends and stories of him back, 1,000 years. You got Native Americans especially have him listed right alongside what we consider normal animals: the bear, the eagle, the mountain lion, and there's Sasquatch right along with their totem poles and their histories and their stories. Of course, you got in the Himalayas, you got the Yeti, and that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years there. There's versions of Australia, the Yowie in Australia, Brazil, South America. There's stories. There's Bigfoot creatures in every type of folklore, if you will, or every type of indigenous people's histories. You're going to find a version of Sasquatch. And to me, I think that's what makes him, a top tier cryptid animal there is.
Yeah, even among the Native Americans, there's 50 different documented names associated for Bigfoot-like creatures. It's with all the different tribes. What I learned, it was kind of funny. We talked about how we've done this in the past. We talked about this on 2 different shows. It wasn't until I was doing research for today's show that I realized that the Algonquin tribes of the Northeast, their legends of Bigfoot are actually the Wendigo, which is very different from what we usually cast in our head as the stereotypical Bigfoot, Sasquatch looking creature. And in looking into some of my local tribes and their beliefs of and their legends of the Bigfoot character, they kind of are the hybrid of those two. Even with 2 very close tribes, they have more characteristics with the Wendigo than they do with the Salish of the Northwest. That their term is Sasquatch. So it was just really interesting on the wide variety of different attributes that have been given to this creature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned. Now I'm from the South, so we call it the Wendigo.
Right.
So it's a little bit, I guess, pronunciation difference, but same creature. Now that's the one where it's cannibalistic and things of that nature, right?
Sure.
Because I know there's some of the lore on that one is where it can possess a person and cause them to do evil things. It normally always has something to do with cannibalism. But also I've heard that he is the bipedal creature that we think of as Bigfoot. There's versions that's also a humanoid type, but it has big antlers, The Wendigo one takes, depending on where you are in the region or the country, it has different looks. And that could just be more of a shapeshifter type thing, where it could definitely be the same type of creature, just, or either they could be using that name to identify a different animal as well. But yeah, that's definitely, we're talking on the same spectrum as what a Wendigo and the Sasquatch type creatures could be, for sure, I think.
Yeah, you're talking about my local area too. It's I live in the Great Basin. When you think of Bigfoot, you don't think of the desert. The California, Nevada, Utah desert. And I mean, up in the Sierras, yeah, very common. In fact, it's some of the most prolific sightings of the classic Bigfoot are in that area. But the local tribes, they have a legend of around Lovelock Canyon, and in the the remnants of was Lake Lahontan, and what's left of that now is the Great Salt Lake. But as it was receding, they have legends of 8-foot tall red-haired giants that they were at war with for several generations, and they finally drove the last of them into a cave near Lovelock, Nevada, and smoked them out. And when archaeologists went into the cave, then caused a landslide, whatever, and closed the cave up. When archaeologists were able to get in there in the early 1900s, they found several mummified human remains, as well as a 15-inch sandal. And this had been known as Bat Cave. And unfortunately, all the artifacts had been disturbed by guano miners when they were going in there. And but yeah, I was just surprised to find these local legends in the Shoshone of the area too. Up by Idaho and northern Utah, their lore is just littered with stories of Sitka and Saduka and other giant-like creatures. And the ones up in that area were more of like the Wendigo, where they're cannibalistic.
Yeah, there's definitely a giant, and there's this thing. I hate to say giant lore, because I believe the proof is there. If people want to discredit it because that makes them uncomfortable, thinking like things like that were around at one point and could still be. As a Christian, I can look back at the Bible and see that giants were in the Old Testament pretty, they were well known, and they were taught about like, well, yeah, there they are. They live in that land right over there, and I think that we found archaeological proof and evidence of giant humanoids, whether they be more, actual humans, just with some sort of gigantic gene in them, whether they be, leftovers from the Nephilim from the biblical days, or they could just be, in some cases, more of the ape-like Bigfoot type creature. But I think the proof is there. It's just, and the evidence is, in my mind, is there. It's just that a lot of people have a immediate distaste for it. They don't want to believe it, because of, if you open that door to start believing one thing, then what else is there that can come in? It just makes people really uncomfortable sometimes.
Hop in, Rick.
Hey, I was making my way back to the chat because we finally have chat activity. I've been setting up signs and stuff because I've noticed, because I've been curious, because we've been getting some really big numbers, but we don't really have anybody other than our regular chatters that usually hang out in the KLRNRadio chat room. So I've been figuring some things out. So I've been hanging out on some other, like, some of these really big ones that'll show they've got 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people listening. They lock their chats. So I'm starting to think nobody even bothers to look anymore to see if you can chat. So that's why I was setting up a sign to let them know, hey, our chat actually works. Come hang out.
Yeah, on yours.
But yeah, it's just weird, because I'm like, if you're pulling in 5,000 people, why the hell would you lock your chat down? I would love to have a feed with 5,000 people and just let anybody who wants to say something say something. We may lose a lot of stuff in the conversation, but that would be amazing. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, for me, being in Indian territory, we're all about Bigfoot down here. There are legends around the town of Poto about Bigfoot sightings, which is about 45 minutes further southeast of me than where I am right now. And it was one of the biggest things that we talked about when I was a kid. But the reason we talked about it was because of the $6 million man.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. Andre the Giant, you know.
Yeah, because of that whole, Bigfoot looking android dude that I guess was played by Andre the Giant.
Mhm.
And it was all us kids talked about after that episode for like months, dude, because it was I don't even think it was during first run because I was still pretty young, but it was something that we all managed to catch. And then my 3 friends and I that I always hung around because I was in the same house since I was 3, we talked about it all summer. Like we would just go because we had fields and stuff everywhere. So we would just go like, we're going to go Bigfoot hunting and just disappear for hours. I mean, because, back then your parents didn't know where you were. Your parents didn't really care where you were. They didn't have any way to keep up with you. And if you were underfoot, they were pissed. So it's just like, go outside.
Yeah.
Get away from me, kid. You bother me.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
our parents used to have a reminder on TV. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children
Where
are?
children are, yeah.
we need to change. Not that this is the show for that, but we need to change that. We for any time we do a show that starts at 10 o'clock, we should open the show with it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your politicians are?
No, but to your point about TV in the 70s and 80s too, that was like the heyday for Bigfoot and UFOs because you had In Search Of. They were always like, the feature, the creature feature of the week on whatever action drama TV show there was, and it was just it really helped feed into the lore and raise awareness to it. It's like I was telling you earlier, Daniel, too, when I was at camp in the 80s, back in the days before Art Bell, when you would actually have to talk to another human being about a conspiracy theory. We were coming back from some field trip. It was dark. Everybody on the bus was asleep, and I'm just chatting it up with the bus driver, and he was telling me Bigfoot stories and UFO stories, and it was just a great time. It was like sitting by a campfire hearing ghost tales. But now it's like TV shifted to the reality, non-scripted, Bigfoot hunters and such like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that Leonard Nimoy had one of those shows back then. What do y'all remember that?
That was In Search Of.
That was In Search Of. I remember he died at a Sasquatch episode too.
Oh yeah,
I thought that might have been one you was mentioning there.
Yeah, that show is what started me down the researching the strange and unusual.
Started him down the research rabbit hole.
Yeah.
This is the reason that he regales everyone with Bigfoot erotica every 2 weeks on FUBAR.
No, okay. We won't get into politics, but that actually had to do with an election in 2018.
I know.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Denver Riggleman and Bigfoot erotica. No. But anyway, to the topic at hand.
I don't. You mentioned what got you interested. Was those shows mainly? Is that what y'all got interested in?
Well, as far as me, what turned me onto it was like he said, first for me was $6 Million Man, and then I saw that In Search Of episode. But I mean, I've always been into that kind of stuff. I mean, I've always been a sci-fi nerd. I've always been, somebody that's into the weird, the unusual, the unexplainable. It's probably why I married my 2 wives. Oh wait. My bad.
Yeah, mine. What got me started was some family, real life experiences, and we can go into that now or later if y'all want to. Whatever.
Yeah, sure. Go into it.
It's something I don't really talk about it a lot because most people look at you like you're crazy, and that's just something you get a lot of.
You're on a conspiratainment show. Everybody's gonna look at you like you're crazy.
It should be safe here, yeah. In the real world, it's you don't really talk about it much. There's a few things that's happened throughout my life, and there's one that happened with my father and his brothers and sisters too. But you know how the brothers really kind of joined the clique and they do this closer together or whatever. But at the time, I'll go back. This was early to mid 60s, and my dad and his family was living in northeast Alabama, right in the foothills of Appalachian Mountains, and their property had a real long driveway, and it was set right into kind of a dead end at the foot of the hills. They had an apple orchard in their backyard, and then from that orchard, for the V hit, it's kind of where the mountain ranges come up, like a holler. They lived at the end of a holler, and it wasn't real steep. The mountain going up was kind of a incline, was kind of shallow, but still it went up. And they would go pick their apples, and they noticed, apples fall from the trees pretty regular, and they was noticing that a lot of the apples were smushed down flat, like something had compressed them as they were laying on the ground. And they couldn't figure out what was going on. The ground was real hard there, so it wasn't a good place to get prints or anything, but something was smashing the apples. And they noticed that as it got time to pick and start bringing in the apples still hanging, that a lot of the trees were bare. A lot of apples were gone. So they thought some of the neighbor kids and stuff was coming up stealing apples. Well, it was so high up that the neighbor kids would have had to either climb the tree or bring a ladder or something to reach as high up as it was going. So and back then, they had no trail cameras or anything like that to see. So they just kind of, the apples are just for their own consumption. They wasn't really apple farmers. They would just use it for their own consumption. They would have them for give it out to the neighbors, and I say community, but there was no neighbors within miles, real far out at this point. But that was just the first signs of something was going on. And later on, my dad and my uncles, his brothers, of course, they would go play out in the woods, and they had a big spot that had a flat rock on it. It kind of jutted out from the ground. They said at one end it was maybe 4 foot tall, and the rest of it just kind of sloped back into the earth. This big flat. They'd go up there and eat a lot. They had their picnics and they'd play and stuff. And they had a bunch of like little odd and end toys, nothing fancy, just little country kid toys, what you would get back in the day. And they would just leave them on that rock a lot of times. Like you mentioned earlier, your parents didn't know where you were. So when they heard my grandmother yell, they just drop what they was doing and go back home, Yeah. And so they would just leave stuff laying. Well, they noticed that when they went back up there, some of the toys and stuff were gone, or they had been moved and stacked up in different arrangements. Some just completely gone altogether. And then later on, they would go back, and sometimes that toy would be back sitting on that rock, and they knew it wasn't there. So something was messing with things. So they got to where they would take apples up there, and the apple would be gone the next day. They take any kind of fruit that they had, pecans. They would take pecans up there, and walnuts, anything they could find, and they'd all be crushed up when they'd go back and check. Sometimes, they had to say most times, nothing would be changed. But on occasion, you could see where something messed with them. And my grandfather was like, boys, that's just a raccoon or something, or a deer has stepped on them, whatever. Well, they got to where they would make little stick cabins and stuff to play with up on that rock. And like Lego logs before, but they didn't have Lego, or not Lego, was it Lincoln logs?
Lincoln logs, yeah.
Logs, yeah. But they was just natural sticks, And they get there one day and they made one. Dad said it was probably 3 foot long and 6 or 8 inches tall, like they're building a fort, cowboy and Indian fort, And they come back up, and the whole thing had been crushed down, just smushed, all of it. So, of course, the boys got to telling the stories, and grandma and grandpa, they would tell them just play along with it, nothing, just boys being boys, And then they never saw anything at this point. And this had went on for, Dad said, a couple of years. Stuff like this was happening as they was getting older. Well, they finally got a television in the house. And they'd eat dinner. He said this is wintertime, so it was getting dark real early. And they'd eat dinner, and then they all sit in the living room and watch whatever was on TV. He said it didn't matter what it was just a family event to watch television. And the way the house was set up, there was the couch was sitting along one wall facing the television, and all the boys was in the floor. My grandfather was sitting on the end of the couch, and my grandmother was in the kitchen. And the window that was between the couch and one of the chairs actually faced, the TV faced that window. So if you was like at the window, you could see the television. And that window was no curtains or anything. Like I said, they lived out in the country, no curtain or nothing. Well, when the screen went black, you know, in between commercials that ended the show or whatever it was, you know how you get that reflection in your television screen. When that screen went black, they could see in the window behind them that was looking into the window. They saw in the reflection of the TV a face in that window, like it was looking into the window. And Dad said that face, he said he doesn't remember much detail of it, but he remembers the head being nearly as wide as that bottom pane of that window. Just fill the whole window up. And the kicker is that window was probably 10 to 11 feet off the ground. So you're looking at the bottom of the windowsill being 10 foot and then filling up the rest of the window. You know, that's a pretty high up. And when that happened, you know, it just was a flash because the screen went black and then the next, you know, the picture started to come back on. Well, when that happened, my grandmother had walked out of the kitchen, which is joined, and she just dropped her coffee cup because she could see out the window from her angle walking into the room. And she didn't scream. She just froze and dropped her cup. And, of course, Dad said that's when just all hell broke loose because Grandpa jumped up out. His dad jumped up out of the chair. All the kids went to running and screaming and all that kind of stuff. So they actually had a sighting. And like I said, this was probably 64, 65 at this point. But that's their sighting. So, oh, and then after that, of course, they would go on. They continued to play on the rock, and they still had interactions with apples. He said the creature liked apples. He did not like bananas. It did. They little hot cakes and pies. He said some up missing, but he said that the bananas and stuff, they would go back and find them. They'd just be smashed down, just like mashed all the pieces. But it seemed to like apples and stuff. So. But that's why Grandpa would always say it must have just been somebody playing a joke on them or something. But because he didn't want to admit anything like that, you know. Oh, and by the way, it was gray. The reflection in the window. They say he didn't see any like real detail of the face itself, but he remembered it was a gray, like it had gray hair instead of black or red or brown. He said it looked more gray to him.
That's very interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, there's more. I've had my own personal experience too. But I don't want to take up the whole thing. We can talk about other stuff, and then we go back to that. So,
well, no, actually, why don't we go ahead and go to your personal experience in a second? But before we do that, I actually have a clip of a sighting that I would like to show everybody.
Okay.
I'm getting it queued up here. Make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. I also figured out how we could have the videos on the screen and us on the screen at the same time. So this is getting kind of interesting for me.
Yeah.
I'm learning new things as I go.
Yeah, just from this, I already recognize this video. I know what this one is.
I see, now you're just showing off. All right, here we go.
Number 15, Independence Day sighting. This footage was apparently filmed on Independence Day. It shows a Bigfoot walking into frame, looking at the camera, and then picking up a baby before running off into the distance.
Might be a little farther.
The Bigfoot seems to be nervously looking at the person holding the camera, therefore saving its baby and running away. Movement can also be seen from the baby as it hugs and pushes away from the adult. Some people have pointed out that they could see facial movement from the adult Bigfoot as well. Others say that CGI has been used in the video, but this is one of the few videos deemed real by the people who have made in-depth analysis videos on the footage.
All right, so we're just gonna stop it right there. What do you guys think? Real or not real?
Well, you want me to start then?
Yeah.
I don't remember what year this video was made, but they said CSI or computer.
CGI.
Yeah, CGI. I don't know, man. I've seen that would have to be some awful good amateur equipment to do something like that. The movements and the patterns of it walking look pretty similar to other videos that I've seen. The addition of the infant Sasquatch is pretty incredible. You don't see that very often, and I agree it does look like it's moving around. Could it be fake? I think it could easily be recreated. I want to say it's real just because I want it to be. But
Daniel is the Fox Mulder of Bigfoot.
Yeah, I could also see that it could very easily, I think, be recreated. So as much as I like that video, I'm not sure. Especially when it walks out into the open, it seems like maybe the stride's a little short. It's hard to get a good picture on the actual height and size of the female, the mother creature, but I don't know. I'm not convinced on that one. I've seen other ones that I have to say it has to be real. I don't say it could be faked, but this one I think, even with the addition of the infant one, I think it could be a fake one. I want to say I love it and I wish it was, but some of the body, like you said, somebody right here looks like it's more skittish, but I don't know. There's something about the movement just doesn't seem animalistic enough, if that makes sense.
Rex from the chat, Bigfoot would have to be more skittish than a doe with Bambi and better trained than a green beret, but I still sometimes have my doubts about it not existing.
Right.
Well, the thing with this video, to your point too, is that that's some pretty good grade amateur CGI equipment. If it is CGI,
right.
One of the things that really jumped out at me was that during the long gate, like you said, it kind of stutter stepped. But saying if this is real, that stutter step would have been coming into the clearing. Oh shit, people, and then picking up. Oh shit, there's my kid, and then the gate went long until they picked up the kid. What I found interesting was the gate was very similar to that in the Patterson film.
Mm-hmm.
And so either if it is fake, they did a good job of recreating not just, this whole, thing, but also in emulating the gate that is in the collective consciousness of what everybody's seen in the Patterson film. So, good on them if they faked it like that. And if it's real, yeah, there's a lot of questions to it. But, a lot of that you could just, looking at this, with a human brain and not a Bigfoot brain, we're like, well, why would it, that doesn't make sense. But then again, we think, with the logic and reason, how we've been trained to think, not how other things tend to think. So, that one, yeah, it's a little grainy and, that could be on purpose to hide the CGI artifacts. But, if you're just out in the woods and you just happen to whip out your, 5th gen iPhone, that's about as good a video quality as you were going to get too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the video quality itself is pretty good. Especially like if I, for one, if I see something like that as an adult going on, it's going to be hard for me to stay focused with a camera of any type on what I'm looking at, you know. But one of the things that I noticed when it first started off is the head turn. It was a full neck turn. And most of the reports I hear are more, it has, you know, it's more of a stiff neck with higher muscle tone. So it turns more of a whole body turn, like in the Patterson video, how it
Right.
actually kind of turns the shoulders and all. And then, and I don't know. I think Sasquatch would be a predator for to be that size. I don't think. I mean, obviously omnivore, but um, I don't know. I see a lot of when it comes to young, especially, is more usually in animals. A lot of times like that, it's in an aggressive type protection mode. But
Yeah.
then
Mama
with
bear give no fucks.
yeah, but you know, like with Bigfoot, perhaps that's key to being undiscovered for so long is the flight or fight of the females. Perhaps maybe that's priority was to grab the infant and just get out of there, you know, instead of the like most bears, their immediate instinct is to fight. So I had always assumed that that would be more of an animalistic response. Is what I was getting at with that. Is the I don't know if that makes sense to
Yeah.
grab the child and run, or would it make more sense to square off and protect? You know, but again, that's human brain versus animal brain. So
Right. And I mean, excuse me, we are imposing, what we would do. And also, like I said, mama bear's just going to, I mean, I don't know, again, without knowing how far, zoomed out was on that too, what relation, that could have been, one thing or another. It's like, I have time to go get the kid versus, like when you find the baby bear in the dumpster and, mama bear is not far behind and you bug out because, well, you're dicking around in that dumpster, mama bear is going to take you out.
yeah,
But something you said kind of triggered another thought in my head too. Is how they talk about, well, if Bigfoot was real, how come we never find any bones when from when they die? And for the longest time, we thought there was a great elephant graveyard where all the elephants went to die. It wasn't until many, many, many decades later that we figured out, oh yeah, no, predation. Those things are stripped to the bone and then the bones are stripped apart by everything in the in the area by the time some stray human happens to come walking by where it was. So
exactly.
that's always been in my head too. That's never been a good well, we haven't found any bones, so they don't exist. Well, I've found very few deer carcasses in the wild. Most of the time, I'll find some shed antlers, but never full skull or rib cage or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you do find the full bones, you go back in a week and it'll be so spread out and taken apart that you won't be able to find it again.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
you'll know where it was and then gone.
Yeah, I spent countless days in the woods, by myself and with friends too. But like you said, the deer population, especially down here, is like, they're everywhere. And you spend enough time in the woods and you may find a carcass, like you said, here or there. And even if you do, if you, get shed hunting or whatever, and you come across something, you go back in a few days, like I said, it's gone. It's spread out so far that you can't tell what it was. And I've never found, I found a hog once, the remains of a hog, and we are just inundated with hogs down here too, wild boar. And I've only ever found one of those, and I've never found bear,
No, I haven't
remains.
found bear either.
And we know there, many of those. So if you got a population of Sasquatch that is lower than the population of black bear, say, which I would assume it would be, the likelihood of finding bones would be pretty low.
Go back
Especially
into the chat too. Jeff had made the comment that he does work with CGI, and that video threw up a lot of red flags for him.
It threw up red flags for me too, just because I'm not smart enough to figure out how CGI works. So it's not magic.
There's a reason that Lucas's company used to be called Industrial Lights. Anyway.
And magic.
Yeah, I know. But,
no, I mean, to your point, to your earlier conversation when you're talking about the orchards, most of the Bigfoot sightings in California that aren't in the Sierras proper, especially in Northern California, up in Las Lomas, around Shasta area, they're in the Central Valley around Fresno, and they're always around orchards. And a lot of the same stories are very similar to what you were talking about too, where with the crop being ground underfoot, and the kid, and so usually the kids are like always going out to play in the orchard because they're the believers. And so, but yeah, I was actually surprised in doing research today too. And when you brought that up, I just wanted to bring it up as well, is that, because a lot of the Bigfoot sightings are in California. And when you get outside of the mountains, it's usually in the foothill orchards when you get that Mediterranean kind of weather pattern right up in the foothills that are great for orchards. And yeah, that's where a lot of the Bigfoot sightings are down there too.
Well, I think it's like I said, it's a good food source, relatively easy to get to with a small risk factor. I mean, those orchards out there, I'm sure, are hundreds of acres, maybe thousands of acres. I'm not sure how big they are really, but I know out
some
here
of the commercial ones too.
So,
like you were talking about too, I know a couple small orchards too, where it's you can get across them in a quad in 5 minutes. So
yeah. Yeah, like I said, this orchard my dad and them had, he said it probably wasn't, 15 to 25 trees. It wasn't that much. It was just while it was on their property. And they had other fruit and plants or like trees. They had some orange trees and stuff like that too. But the apple ones was consistent. He would always find the damaged and missing produce from those trees more than anything else.
Rick,
sorry, I'm still trying to figure some things out on the back end.
Stop playing with it and engage in the show.
Hey,
you told him that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I gotta tell him that.
More than once. I'm still figuring out the tech side, so I'm messing with stuff here.
Have either of y'all had any personal things, contact and all, or?
Not with Bigfoot. I've had some weird stuff that's gone on with other things that we've talked about on this show before, but I've never really seen anything that I would have thought might have possibly been Bigfoot. No.
When I grew up in the mountains, I never personally had an experience with them, but one of the stories that stuck with me is I was working. One of the guys I worked with, he also owned a camera house. And he was telling me the story one day about this was back in the day when you would have to take your film to be developed, and so he had some people who were, we were at a big vacation spot where I lived at and a big tourist destination. And he was telling the story of how when the film was developed and he was developing it and he kind of saw what was going on in it, and he mentioned it to the guy when he came to pick up the film. The dad knew nothing about it. All they were was at one of the lakes up in the mountains, and the kids came up and said, "Hey, Dad, we need the camera real quick." And they took off, and he said there were 5 fairly good photos of, not like, full pose Bigfoot, but kind of like you could tell not a California brown bear, none of the local, nothing you'd think of as, local wildlife. It was erect humanoid moving through the trees enough in the distance where it wasn't like a shot, but he definitely he said it freaked him out because he was one of those who didn't believe in Bigfoot, and he's all, this is actually kind of moving me over into the other camp. So, and that was close to a personal experience, and his person knew a person who took the picture kind of thing.
Yeah, I've never got any kind of videos or pictures or anything like that. my father never shared me the story of his family and their experience until I was older, and because what really set me off interested in it is something that I saw. Actually, not maybe 3.5 miles from where I'm living currently. Is when I was young, between the ages of 3 and 6, right up till I started going to kindergarten. That's when we finally stayed in one spot. My family would work farms, so we would move with the season, and we just so happened we was living, like I said, about 3.5 miles down the road, the same road I live on. I pass it on regular. It's still a tomato farm today, but they had houses on the farm there that we lived in one, and my aunt and uncle lived in one, and then another one. There was 3, and the other set of aunt and uncles lived in that one. And I was sitting on the what's it called, washing machine. I was sitting on the washing machine. We didn't have a dryer, but had a washing machine. And I was looking out the little window in the back of the house, just looking outside. Mom was cutting my hair, and my 2 aunts were in there too. And I was probably 4 to 5 at this point. I think Mom said I was closer to 4, but I was sitting there on the washing machine, looking out the window, being still, trying to be good, getting my hair cut. Mom was talking with my aunts, and I saw from my left, walking across the hill behind our house, coming down the hill there. It's like a little rise, and then it dropped back off the other side. So it was like a little ridge line, just going off to the other side of towards the forest. Walking down that ridge line, and then it took and turned probably 150 feet down this ridge line in my line of sight. And it was probably, let's see, I'm trying to remember exactly how far Mom, because they had to tell me the distances. I don't remember that well. But she said it was probably 100 foot to 120 foot behind our house. So not too far. I was able to get a good look, but the sun was also shining in on me. So I didn't get a good detail, but just a real dark silhouette of what I was looking at. And I was trying to tell Mom, I remember clearly saying, "Hey, Mom, look, there's a man walking. Who is that? Look," trying to get her attention. And you know how I love my mother to death and her sisters, but when they get to talking, you know how they go. And anyways, I couldn't get her attention, but I watched him walk from my left down the hill to my right, and then it turned and walked away from me down towards the forest. And it was, I remember being large, but be what I would consider the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. It was shaggy looking, but I couldn't get any good detail or color because to me it was just a black silhouette because of the way the sun was coming in. It was in the evening time. And it come down and turned, and when it turned and walked away, I remember thinking how big and broad he was. And I always thought he was like a giant or something. I didn't know what else to call him. Just that he was a big man. And I just kept on about him being a big man that I saw. And to the point that my mom and my aunts started getting concerned, like who was walking on the property? Who did I see? Because all the men were out working in a different field. There shouldn't be anybody in that field. So when they got home, I just continued to harp on it. And the next morning, my uncle Jack, and he was 6'4". He walked up on that hill just to see what he could see, and he found these footprints that looked like a bare foot, like a human foot. And like I said, he was 6'4", and he wore a size 13 boot, work boot. And he said he could put his booted foot in that footprint, and he could put both of them in side by side touching, and it was wider than his 2 feet together. And when he put them toe to toe in like that, it was almost, he overhung that foot by just less than an inch, the footprint.
Holy crap.
So it was bigger than his 213s, lengthwise and widthwise. And so when he saw that, he come back down to the house and got my father, and he'd already got the other uncle, and they went back up there to look at it. And we didn't have a camera or anything back then. We didn't have those. I grew up very, very working class. We didn't have cameras or anything like that. So Jack would put one foot in that footprint, and he'd have to match the stride. He actually had to jump to reach the other footprint. Kind of, you know how you stretch your stride out and kind of hop. He had to do that to reach the other footprint, and they followed the footprints. It was like I said, it was in the ground had already been turned, so the ground was soft, disked up, and so it had good big prints. But they followed him down the length where I was talking about, where it turned and went into the forest, and you could see the animal trail down the mountain. Going at the bottom of the mountain, there's a big river, and they think it was going down towards that river. But once they got off in the woods, they decided not to follow any further, and they had to get to work anyways. But that's the thing. That's my personal sighting. Was back then. I haven't seen again. But that's what triggered them to share with me what they saw. And those two uncles they also experienced the story I shared earlier. They experienced all that themselves too. So, but with them, I think it's kind of unique that I have a generational sighting. My father and his brothers, and then I get to see something like that later on. Very similar to what they were seeing. And but yeah, they said that when they followed it, when they saw the footprints, of course we didn't have a camera, we didn't have anything to do those castings, how they do the
we
didn't have none of that kind of stuff to do. But like I said, the way he measured it was with his boots, his work boots, and it was bigger, it was wider than both his feet, and then heel to toe it was basically the same length as two 13-inch or two size 13 work boots. So Bigfoot.
So definitely a Bigfoot.
That is a Bigfoot.
Exactly. And then throughout my years camping and being outdoors, I've heard the wood knocks.
See, now I wasn't actually familiar with that being. I wasn't familiar with that being a thing until recently. Mm-hmm. But once I started hearing about it, I'm like, God, you know what? I've heard something similar to that or that many times when I've been out camping as well. It's like, I always just attributed it to, antlers against, a tree or something like that. And then, but then but like rhythmically. So it's like, usually the best time to go camping where I'm at is also during rutting season. So the deer are making a lot of, attention grabbing noises,
right?
Out there anyway. So I just attributed it to that. But watching some of the newer shows where that's become a topic of conversation, I'm like, holy crap, I have heard that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that, and I've smelt the strong scents that seems like it moves. Like a lot of times you'll think, well, there's a dead animal or a carcass or something around. And, like I'll go look, see if I can find something, see where the source is coming from. And you can't ever find it. And then you realize, well, I don't smell it anymore. Even back where you originally smelt it. That means the scent is moving. It's not something that that's the scent that is actually being, that's in motion. It's not just something laying dead, So
see, now something about the scent that's occurred to me, it's always kind of been in the back of my head too, is that kind of a scent, and you mentioned carcass as well. It's made me wonder that if Bigfoot is maybe a carrion hunter rather than a predator, where it's more of it's an omnivore of opportunity.
Yes.
So rather than being something that'll take down the game, it'll find some already dead game and just feast on it like hyenas and coyotes.
Yeah, I think it's opportunistic too. I think it will live hunt and just get what it can get too. That's pretty common.
All right, gents. Believe it or not, we've already blown through an hour, so we should probably take a break because I'm out of
Yeah.
time. So we're going to take a quick break, come back hour 2 on the other side. You're listening to Juxtaposition live right here on KLRN Radio, streaming through X, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, and Spreaker. We're everywhere. We're slowly trying to take over the world. Don't mind us while we do. Back in a few.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you.
All right. We are clear everywhere, but, well, we're clear on Spreaker and 360. Or, well, Spreaker. We're not clear anywhere else, but we've got about 4 minutes. If anybody's still here. This is just because I realized we were in dead air and we lost Daniel. So hang on.
Okay.
Because I was
Yeah.
planning on coming back with something else since we're at the top of the hour, but then I realized we had nothing playing, so I just pulled this up real quick. I think Daniel's back now.
I'm back now.
So we're officially gonna launch hour 2 in 3, 2, 1, and maybe.
In the desert night, Bigfoot roaming out of sight. Government shadows, secrets deep, conspiracies unfold while we sleep. Strange encounters unexplained, truth is out that really chain. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling history, stories untold. Area 51, a whispered name. UFO sightings, a haunting flame. Loch Ness monster, a watery myth. Cryptozoology, a curious gift. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out that bravely changed. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Skeptics doubt, believers yearn for answers hidden yet to learn. In the twilight zone where logic ends, the search continues with all hands. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out that bravely chained. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Truth is out there. Truth is out there.
And we are back. We are live, and it's hour number 2 right here on KLRN Radio. I'm Rick Robinson. He's Ordnance J. Packard, and hang on, I got to bring him back onto the screen. One of these days, we got to get you set up with some sort of a camera interface, even if it's just an app.
Nope.
No, I don't mean an actual camera. I just mean like one of those things that like moves and stuff, so it looks like you're on camera.
Oh, I've been looking into that actually. Yeah, it's
So-
kind of funny.
so we can fool the
being
system,
shoved
so
in the
that way you can
background
just turn off your camera.
being shoved into the background on Manorama where they sometimes forget I'm on the show. Yeah, I've decided I'm going to get one of those face rigs.
Yeah, because that way I think the system would read that just like it would with like having a camera on, and then you could just do your own manually turning your camera
That's
on
why I
and
need
off.
to
as they go in
throw
and out of
OBS into the mix too.
But
Anyway,
all right, so I'm working on getting the still shots that you sent me incorporated into something that I can use. So bear with me for just a second.
yeah, no problem. So, okay, so the first hour we retold our personal experiences. Some of us with Bigfoot, some of us with tech, and
Hey, I resemble that.
and so okay, so now I think we need to move in. We should move into. And by the way, I love having 2 hours because we're not rushed. I love that we took the show to 2 hours. So Daniel, start with you. We've talked about what Bigfoot, what it is. So whether it's just another creature, some sort of hominid, is it something more spiritual, metaphysical, because it is actually, in many Native American cultures, it is actually somewhat of kind of like a demigod or a deity to them. And they're, in some of their creation myths too, where it took part of it. You have the interdimensional traveler, and you also have, is Bigfoot actually an extraterrestrial? Those are the 4 big predominant theories on what is Bigfoot. Where you lie on that?
I'm more that he is a bone and blood creature, just a natural of this world animal. I think it's probably descendant straight from just one of the great apes. It's I won't say the missing link between human and ape. I don't know if it very well could be kind of an advanced species, not quite on human level. It could be argued that it's above us, but I do think that it is just a creature, a natural of this world animal. I don't necessarily buy into the supernatural powers that some are attributing to it. The ability to cloak, to go to do the interdimensional travel, to phase in and out. I don't know that it's necessarily an alien type creature as well, but I tend to believe that it is mainly just another a great ape like we are,
Yeah, because along the lines of one of the predominant theories with the bone and blood is that while tens of thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, our evolutionary tree warred with the Neanderthals and kind of drove them into extinction. But in that vein too, quite a few people posit that they just took a different evolutionary path. Where we went science and technology, they went woodcraft and evasion. And they're still around too. I mean, it does the body type, the body archetype from Neanderthal to Bigfoot is not even close to each other. But again, that's several mutations of evolution between then and now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, even we've experienced that to a lesser extent as well. So yeah, that seems to be the most plausible of them. One of the things I found interesting, you and I talked about this before the show too, was that, and I know Rick's trying to get the map up that Jeff sent us of UFO sightings in concurrence with, and UFO not so much the classical hovering orb thing, but unusual lights in the area of when there is a Bigfoot sound, Bigfoot sighting, there's like an orange orb glow around the scene as well. Now that map that Rick's bringing up on the screen now, that one's actually interesting because that is the evolution of Bigfoot sighting, reported Bigfoot sighting at the area since what do we have in there? The early 19.
Hang on, I can get back to the main source so I can read it a little bit better. I was making sure it made sense on the screen. It looks like it's starting about 1950.
Yeah, and so you see it. It didn't even really. I mean, it kind of peaked a little bit in the 70s and 70s and 80s after the Patterson film.
I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I am here.
Right.
Yeah, you see that big white spot on the California-Nevada border? I am there.
Yeah, I'm in the foothills of Appalachian Mountains, so we got the whole nation covered. It looks like.
Yeah, you've got that whole corridor there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at what I found interesting is the very sharp peak between 2000 and 2010, and that was really before a lot of the culture shifted into the reality TV Bigfoot hunter type shows. At that point we were still all doing ghost hunters and shit in there. Mm-hmm. So I just find it interesting that there was just a sharp peak like that. Well, this is the map I was talking about. This is concurrence, especially the white hot areas where you have Bigfoot and UFO sightings kind of overlapping each other.
That is an interesting map to see it laid out like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually trying to load them directly in and do it as a presentation, but it didn't like the file format, so I just pulled them straight from X.
Yeah, just straight from the DM.
Anyway, but
yes,
I did notice that on this map, the correlation does seem to be heavily around where the moonshine stills are as well.
Coincidence?
I think so. I wonder that spike in the 2000, like you talked about 2010s when the sighting spiked up before the really the reality shows and the hunter shows come up. I wonder that spike is what started making that trend of reality TV shows go more from ghosts to the cryptids and the Bigfoot shows.
I mean, it definitely. The Ghost Hunters was definitely the first ones free.
Yeah.
Of paranormal reality shows, and and then you got Oak Island and the other ones too. But yeah, it was kind of like, did the massive number of reportings lead to, hey, you know what, we can let's go, like all great discovery shows, let's go find a couple people who are at the top of their craft and follow them around with cameras.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, Amish, look what I did.
Was that?
Look what I did. Look at the bottom of the screen. Read the Chiron for a second.
Oh, nice. Thank you. So hey, Rick,
I couldn't tell anybody where to follow you, so I just did free ordering.
Same question to you that I asked Daniel. Of the four main categories, where does Bigfoot lie with you?
If I'm being honest, I kind of dig the whole interdimensional idea, because that kind of puts a whole other level on it. But I'm kind of with Daniel, though. Honestly, I think he's just born and bred here, and it's kind of like what you said a second ago. We went one way on the technology scale, they went the other, and they've managed to blend in fairly well. I mean, don't forget, on this very show, we've talked about the fact that they may be dwelling in the center of the earth too, and only come up when they need shit.
I mean,
they explain why we never see them, because they may not actually be up here very often.
Going with the story I told in the first hour, where when the Paiutes and the Shoshone drove the red-haired giants into the cave, it seemed like that was their natural go-to spot. So yeah, we have covered Hollow Earth, and that's not it doesn't discount any of the other theories. I mean, other than the alien ones, but being interdimensional, being
our resident alien would like to weigh in there, so I'm putting him on the screen.
Okay, Bigfoot is not an alien. He doesn't show up at the meetings. But the interdimensional one, at least with me, they're not mutually exclusive. And a lot of the myths and legends we have kind of like lend themselves to, when we've talked about shadow people and other things as well, just popping into our reality, either on purpose or on accident, and popping back out. But there's still, what they are, just in a different, different plane of existence. And if you're familiar with the multiverse theory, realities are bumping into each other all the time. And, when crossovers happen, they happen. And they touch on, and it's a very sci-fi thing to talk about too, but, they've touched on it on a few things, but it's actually, it makes sense in physics too, where with every universe having its own harmonic resonance, you're going to be pulled back into yours. So like, you could be here for a while, do your thing, and then get pulled back.
Well, I mean, yeah, just see sliders.
Well, I mean, not just slide. I mean, but yeah.
But no, I'm saying, I mean, it could be something similar. Like maybe they know how to slide between dimensions, and basically they're only allowed to do it for a certain amount of time before they get pulled home. The other thing is, and this is kind of something that I was going to bring up, and I'm glad Rex reminded me, is, it could also be that they may actually be, maybe they crash landed here. Maybe they really are aliens. Maybe they've just been here long enough that we just think they're part of the natural population. Because, I mean, according to Star Wars, there's a rather Bigfoot-like looking race out there somewhere.
Mm.
Just saying.
You mentioned the Hollow Earth and being underground. I noticed on that map, and it's something I've thought about as well, the Mammoth Cave system.
Yeah.
A lot of those sightings are pretty heavy in the regions that have that cave system.
Mm-hmm.
So that living in caves, I imagine, would be pretty easy. And you hear people talk, you see it where they nest and they build all these structures, but an animal's going to find something that's easy. and a cave is something that's easy. It's ready made. So I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that would be a good example too of the underground theory as well.
yeah, that's why they always tell you if you're going to go venturing into a mine or cave, and don't go venturing into mines, just don't do it.
Mhm.
But if you're going to, huck some rocks in first.
They're right.
Yeah, because even short of Bigfoot, you've all mountain lion, bear, any predator will take its kill back to the shelter that it can defend, so that
Yeah.
way it can finish it off. So
Well,
again, why you don't find a graveyard.
speaking on that, since you mentioned it real quick, they had a buddy of mine that got attacked by a bobcat. They were doing caving, spelunking, whatever you want to call it, and he was probably around 20 at that time. And apparently they were crawling into this cave, and they were just pushing this bobcat further back and further back. And finally it couldn't go any further back. So it decided the only way out is through my friend. And it caught him up pretty bad. I mean, he still got scars today that are visible from it. So yeah, you got to definitely be careful about cave and what else could be in there,
Yeah.
All right, so we've got another sightings vote.
All
So
right.
here we go.
Sighting by dog. In this video, a man had strapped a GoPro camera to his dog, which then allegedly filmed a sighting of Bigfoot in the woods. The video simply shows the dog walking through the grassy woods when a figure suddenly runs by. The creature stands up on two legs like a human would, but also appears hairy and ape-like.
All right, so we're just going to stop that one right there so we can leave it on the screen for a second.
Dog would have hit on that long before it got there.
Yeah. It's obviously something there because the dog does look at it, but there doesn't seem to be any fear in the dog either. So,
Well, that's the whole thing. It seems like it's something the dog recognizes the smell of. Otherwise, you would have thought it would have reacted a lot sooner.
yeah.
Yeah. Especially with the pungent smell that Bigfoot is attributed with. Dog would have smelled that long before the camera started. The video started, in my opinion. I'm going with fake on that one. I'm not buying it. Just because the good boy.
Yeah.
Well,
the dog didn't seem to react the way you think it should.
we have a reaction from the chat too. So
CGI and monogram. Yeah, you notice. Okay, so one thing I've noticed with a lot of like these type videos too is the hair is always black.
Yeah.
Now most of the, again, it may just be regional, but I talked earlier about the red-haired giants. The stories from California, the ones I'm familiar with, they're a red to brown. They're a reddish brown. Not quite as sharp as say an orangutan, but definitely much more definition of color than just pure black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and also I noticed a lot of times, not to mention just being black, but it's just too uniform as well. You think that there would be longer hair in certain spots, perhaps on the shoulders and the head region, and maybe not so much on the forearms and hands because those are its tools. So you think that the hair might be a little shorter there,
Sure.
But on a lot of these videos, it just looks like a suit. It's just too uniform. You know what I mean?
no,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
completely understand. All right, so we've got one more quick one, just because I just looked at the clock and we haven't done very many of these, and I kind of like the fact that we can incorporate video now. So just indulge me a little bit.
That's good with me.
13 albino Bigfoot. A homeowner captured this footage after they heard a disturbance in the backyard of their wooded property. This homeowner and others in this town had previously heard strange noises and disturbances for the last 2 weeks or so
I know this
prior to
channel
this
and
being
I hate
captured
this
on
guy's
film.
voice.
The town was confirmed as Carbondale,
Princeton,
Pennsylvania. In the video, someone seems to be running around in a wooded area in a stressed manner. Then when he hears a
Okay, what the hell is that?
When the skin and the hair and everything's all exactly the same shade, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not giving much credence to that one either.
But the reason I
Yeah.
wanted to show these though is according to this video, these are the 15 most convincing Bigfoot sightings. I've seen more convincing.
Yeah, well, you're down at the bottom of the list. I mean, what's up around number 1? Because this
Yeah.
is not.
maybe we'll move up a little bit and get at least one. Maybe we'll do like the last two, like the top two and the top number 1.
That did the top 5 or something. The number 15 was better than the last 2 here.
Kind of what I thought. I was like, dude, this is supposed to be better than the last one.
There's one.
You know,
I don't
like
know if it's on
the chat. Go ahead.
There's one video. I don't know if it's on this list that it's a swamp ape. You know, one's down in South, like North Florida and stuff like that, in the swamp areas, where this guy's got the video of it, and I think I sent it to you, Rick, in the Cryptid Vault page. But it's in this tree, tearing this tree apart like it's looking for grubs and stuff. And the guy's filming it, and then you see it clearly stand up on its back feet. You know, at first you think maybe it's a bear digging around, and then you see it stand up, and it's just for a split second before he takes off running, but you get a good look at it from behind. And I think that's a pretty good video. Number 1, because that guy's reaction, and number 2, who's going to take a suit that looks that good and go waist deep in a swamp just for a video? You know.
Well, I've actually got yours pulled up now, so let's take a look at it.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, well, we get.
Whoops, I'm on the wrong one though. Hang on. I thought I said to share that one. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, while we're waiting to load that up, Jeff made a comment in chat, and he's gotten so good at making CGI images; they're almost photorealistic. I'm going to defer to him when he says fake. I mean, my sniffer's pretty good on that too, but I mean, what he's been able to do with lighting lately is just amazing.
All right, here we go. I finally figured out which pane I was supposed to be playing in.
But I don't recall how long this video is, but
it's only about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah, I see. But you can see it here with his back to us at that tree, and it's digging into bark. You can hear the bark breaking off.
Okay, so far this one is a little more believable, just the noises alone.
Yeah, look at him tearing that tree apart. You know, I'm a big guy. I don't know if I could pull a tree apart like this. I didn't know that was where he was doing this, but anyway.
No, it's still going to keep going. He just accidentally hit the record button again and had to restart it.
But you can clearly see the movement of the shoulders, the arms, the body movement, and all that.
You can see a difference in hair colors and lighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what really gets me is when it finally, towards the end, is that it stands up. You can already tell it's a pretty big animal as is.
Yeah, right now I'd be thinking I'm watching a black bear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could see that too. But here.
Yeah, I'm still thinking black bear though, because it's just leaning up against the tree to pull it apart.
Yeah, you can see where
it's pulling that tree apart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I remember correctly though, there's one point where it stands fully. Because right, like I said, now it looks like it's just kind of squatted down, tearing the tree apart. I'm assuming, like you said, getting grubs or whatever out of it.
Yeah.
If this is somebody in a suit, it's number 1, a good suit, and number 2, he is committed to the bit. You know.
Right.
There it went. It stood all the way up.
You see where you see the knee bend. You see the thighs extend when it stands up.
Yeah.
What? I think that's what happened to him. I think he thought he was looking at a bear until dude stood up. He's like, "Fuck that! I'm out of here."
Yeah, I don't know about the black bear population in the Florida swamps, but looking at it as if that was basic California aspens, and I can totally see this being a black bear.
I don't think so though, because of the shape of. I wish I could zoom in more, because the shape of the head doesn't match.
Yeah, especially when it stands up, you see the butt part and you see the thighs extend where the knees are. It's like it was squatted down and it stands straight up like a person.
Yeah, I tried to see if I could do a little trick and zoom in some, but it's not actually changing the image much, just the font. But I mean, the shape of the head right there, that's not bearish to me. I mean, it could be a weird angle. I'm not saying it couldn't be, but
the lack of the ears and then the shoulder slope as well, that doesn't tend to be a bear for me either.
Yeah, but I'm not thinking of it straight on. I'm thinking the bear is probably if it's a bear, seeing this as a bear, it's probably about 10 degrees off of, straight ahead.
Jeff has a
the
good
head
point.
position to me looks like an ear until it stands up.
Jeff has a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the fact that I'm thinking, that this black bearish is actually, better chance of it being real. Okay, go ahead and keep playing that again. Let's see the
All right.
stand.
Well, I think I already have it paused right about the point where he stood up, but hang on, I'll see if I can.
Yeah, that's fluid.
Right after this is when dude took off running, so I don't think we're going to see much more.
Yeah, I don't know if he does shows it again at the end of his video or not. I don't know, but
yeah, we can find out because I ain't watching all that again. That was making me nauseous.
Yeah, when he runs, it's rough, but I don't know. It don't look like it from the.
No. Nope.
But like I said, that movement where when he's squatted down, you can see the shoulders and the arms working, forearms, forelegs, whatever you want to call it, working, tearing that tree apart. You hear the noises. You can see it move.
Right.
But that very last thing to me, when it raises up, the hip to thigh to knee ratio, the way it bends straight up like that, just the proportionality of it to me looks like it's more believable that it could be a Bigfoot and not so much a black bear. That right. I wish we could get a better look at it standing up, but just that mechanical movement of it looks too humanoid, in my opinion.
All right,
yeah,
No, go ahead, Ordy. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just, saying is like you said, if it is somebody in a really good fursuit that's committed to the bit, I mean, we are in the age of monetization where, that guy's video probably got 1 million hits and, he could have made enough to buy another suit off of it. But on the other hand, too, the fact that, one, why would you have that suit unless you were going to, and two, it's like Jeff said in the chat, and I already said too, the fact that I'm looking at this thinking, this is just some dude stumbling upon a black bear in the woods, that gives it a high level of believability. Again, like you said, with the sounds and everything else too, ripping it apart. I'm going to give that one over 70%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's me too. It's like none of the videos to me will ever be 100% one. The Patterson one is just probably the closest in my mind, but I rank that high on probability as well. Definitely believable.
My favorite, I don't know if it made it outside California, but in California, about a decade ago, maybe two, they used the Patterson film as part of the Real California Cheese campaign with a big wheel of cheese in its hand. I thought that was fantastic.
That is awesome.
All right, so just for fun, let's check out the number 2 and number 1 of these videos and see if they ever got any better. Because so far I'm thinking probably not.
I swear to God, I know that channel because it's in like, I think he also does Dark 5, and I hate that dude's fucking voice.
From the cadence, I'm almost positive that's not. I think that may be a voice sample that is being done with AI, but that's just my thought. But anyway,
text speech, but still, somebody else uses it too. And
here's number 2.
Freeman footage. This footage was captured in 1994 by Bigfoot hunter Paul Freeman. The clip shows a Bigfoot walking in front of the camera, looking at Paul Freeman.
Oh yeah, I know this one.
Oh, there he goes. Jesus.
Then disappearing into the woods.
2 of them, I guess. Oh. I wonder where they went. Oh, God.
This is a good spot for a jump
The clip
scare.
starts with Freeman trying to control the camera while searching for an unexplained noise. Hall comments that he can hear the brush breaking and the figure appears. Later, a second Bigfoot can be seen for a couple of seconds peering from behind a tree. The latter part of the footage apparently depicts an adult Bigfoot picking up a juvenile.
Oh, God. There's two of them, I guess. Man. Oh. I wonder where they went.
Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying the video so far.
Nobody cares,
If you've
Chills.
ever been curious as to what I look like in real life, then follow me on Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT with underscores
Nobody
instead
cares.
of spaces.
Not gonna happen,
I also
bro.
have a Twitter at YT_chills.
Not gonna happen. Bye.
Yeah,
Patterson
that
Gimlin film.
Ted Patterson's number one. Yeah. The guy you just watched, Rick, is I've seen an interview with him before.
Button because we upload.
Okay.
There we go. No, I'm just trying to kill the feed. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen a video with this guy before that we just watched with the Bigfoot film. A lot of the people who are don't believe his videos and stuff like that, they always say that his reaction is not what a normal person would react to. How he seemed pretty calm, like where he says, "Oh my gosh, there he goes," But this guy, he is a true believer in it, and or at least he projects himself to be. And he has a lot of these. He claims to have a lot of experience to the point that he's not as surprised anymore because he knows they're out there and he's seen them and he's interacted in things. So that's a lot of. Some people complain about his reactions or just don't seem what a normal reaction would be. Now, in that particular video, you see where the creature walks in front of that tree, that evergreen tree. And I think that would be a perfect opportunity to get some measurements and actually figure out how tall that creature was. And it frustrates me that he didn't do that. He had the perfect measuring device there to do it. If that tree's a 20-foot tall tree, then we can say that Bigfoot is 12 to 13 foot tall. If that tree is 10 foot tall, then that's a 6 foot tall guy in a costume. You know what I mean? It's easy. He has a perfect measuring point of measurement right there, and he doesn't follow up on that. And that, to me, is a red flag as well.
Look at you debunking videos live on the air.
And what's also, he's out there looking at a near perfect footprint. You can see the toes and everything, this near perfect footprint. And that is a rare enough occurrence in this on its own. And then all of a sudden, while he's doing that with his camera showing the footprint, a Sasquatch walks by within, looks like less than 100 feet. Pretty close, it looked like. That's some pretty big coincidences right there. So that video has always bothered me mainly for that reason. He has a perfect point of measurement and he doesn't follow up on it. That bugs me a lot.
All right, so we have the number one video according to this channel, so I have that queued up now. And then
we know that's the Patterson, but it's worth showing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's always.
This is the benchmark for all Bigfoot sightings, the first on tape.
I like the fact that we can actually show it now instead of just letting them listen to it.
When did they start doing the Gimlin part of it?
I don't know.
Because it's always been the Patterson film. Now it's the Patterson Gimlin film.
Somebody else wanted their credit, I don't know.
The greatest Bigfoot footage of all time is the Patterson Gimlin film captured by Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin on October 20th, 1967. On the day in question, the men were researching Sasquatch reports near Bluff Creek in California. They were on horseback and came across an overturned tree. As the pair rounded the tree, they spotted a large figure beside the creek. At the sight of the Bigfoot, Patterson's horse reared. Roger quickly untangled himself from the straps and spent about 20 seconds removing the camera from his saddlebag. By the time he began to film the creature, Patterson was 120 feet away. Roger Patterson began to run after the Bigfoot with his 16mm camera. He stopped at a distance of about 80 feet and captured the most famous section of the film. The Sasquatch looks over its right shoulder at Roger, who then falls to his knees. The creature has long arms, a coned head, a ridge down the spine, a slow walking pace, and a prominent brow ridge. In the clip, the creature turns at the men a total of 2 times. Shortly after the final glance, the Bigfoot walks behind a grove of trees, reappears for a second, and then walks away.
Hey everyone, my name is Sir Spooks. I just want to say thanks to Top 15s for collaborating with me. If you enjoy Scary Top 5 videos...
Okay, you can shut up now, bro. Sorry, I was typing and didn't realize it was at the end.
The Patterson film. It probably, other than JFK assassination, may be the most viewed and scrutinized film in existence, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely one for the and both of them being in the 60s too. 67, 68, and two of the some of the best known footage of man, after landing on the moon, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The that video there, we've seen it countless times. People's enhanced it, cleaned it up, stabilized it. And that it just flat out either that is the best imitate fake suit and the greatest technology of a fake suit in the 60s that could be, or it's a straight up Bigfoot. There's no in between there. And I don't think that special effects were that good in the late 60s. And that's also, again, transported that far out into the woods. Now it's not that deep into the woods, but back then it was still a pretty good trek back into the woods on that kind of terrain over that long of a distance of the walk to keep that steady pace, to keep the steps like it was taken. If it's a fake, then it's the best hoax I've ever seen.
You know what?
And like you said, to be consistent too.
Sorry, I just had I don't know if it may actually be a memory. But you guys had asked me if I'd ever had anything akin to a Bigfoot experience before, and something just occurred to me. I was probably maybe 10 or 11 years old, and this is back when my dad was living on an acreage with his sister and his mom, and we were coming back from the lake, and it was not really dark yet, but kind of dusky, still a little bit of light off in the horizon, so it wasn't completely dark yet. And this is when everything from a certain point became just old dirt and gravel country roads. And I remember because we were just cruising along in the bed of the truck, and my cousin, who was a couple of years older than me, started freaking out because she saw something off in the woods, just barely, just not like right up into the ditch line, but just a little bit past it. And she started pointing and screaming and yelling. And I only saw about a split second of it, so I don't necessarily know what it was. But I know she was freaked out for the entire night. She told her dad about it. She told her mom about it. She told my dad about it. She told her grandma about it. They're all looking at her like she was crazy. They're like, "You were back there. What did you see?" I'm like, "I didn't see nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. I only saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I don't know." And this was shortly after one of my first paranormal experiences, so I sure the hell wasn't admitting that I might have saw something a little weird. So I don't know if it was Bigfoot, a bear, or what it was, but I do remember vaguely seeing something, or at least my cousin freaking out because she did. But that was a long ass time ago. I don't know how come I just remembered that.
The way your mind stores things in their memories, it blocks some things from us. It's funny how some things trigger those memories to come back. I think a lot of people, most of the people, I think, have experienced things that they would otherwise discredit immediately and just kind of block it out of their memories, like just that didn't happen, don't think about it, and it's gone. I think most people actually have experienced some things that they can't explain, and they just kind of lock it away.
Well, it's like I was telling Ordy, and we've talked about it on this show. There was, and I think I've even mentioned it in passing on one of the times that we were filling time on you and Laura's show about the time that I was in the YMCA getting swimming lessons, and we were in the deep ends playing on our little paddle boards. Well, I got tired of doing that, and I still couldn't swim very well, and it was making me nervous. So I went back to the shallow end. So it's just the instructor's off with all the kids in the deep end, and they're still playing on the paddle boards and stuff. And then next thing I know, I'm just kicking around in the shallow end. I can stand up, I can touch everything else, but I'm just kind of enjoying the fact that I can float on the board without having to worry about it going under or anything. And the next thing I know, I'm floating backward in a pool. There's no current, no nothing, and I'm moving backwards. My arms aren't moving, my legs aren't moving, nothing, and I'm still moving backwards. And then after I get about to the middle of the pool, the next thing I know, I'm being pulled under by something. I still don't even know what. The last memory I have is looking up from near the bottom of the pool and my feet sticking straight up out of the top of the water. And then I came to with paramedics giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. There was something that was pulling at me in that pool, and there was nobody there with me. There was nobody grabbing hold of me, nothing.
I was about to say, could you feel any kind of like hands or something gripping you at all? Or
no, I mean, not like hands. I mean, I could feel something was pulling me, but it wasn't anything like, because you could feel when somebody gets a hold of you. There's a distinct feeling when you feel fingers grabbing a hold of you. Something had me, but I don't know what it was. And this is why, because this was a couple of years before the incident that I'm talking about now. And that's why when my dad asked me, did you see anything? I'm like, no, because when I told my dad what happened at the YMCA, he's like, you're full of shit.
Right.
To an 8 or 9 year old kid, you're full of shit. I don't know what happened, but that wasn't it. And I'm like, I'm trying. I'm telling you, dude, I did. That was not anything I did to myself. How the hell am I going to turn myself upside down under the water and hold myself there?
Yeah.
Until I pass out.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely something happening. Definitely happened to you. I mean, obviously you lived it. And it's funny that you mentioned that was your dad's, his reaction. That was my grandfather's reaction too, basically, to my dad and them growing up. They said, no, you're not seeing it. Even after they saw the reflection in the window.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, no, we're not.
Well, that was just somebody messing with us. Well, that means that one of the neighbors had to walk that far, miles, with a ladder, prop it up and climb up the ladder and look through the window. And he's had to have a head so big that it filled the whole window pane up. I mean, it's one of those things where if you, like I said earlier, if you start believing and accepting that one thing that isn't real, that doesn't exist, does exist, then it opens up the door to let a plethora of other things come in that you have to at least consider to be real.
Well, yeah, and it's like the whole thing, and it's like you said. I mean, it's one thing if you're going to punk your neighbors and it's like a 2-minute walk next door. It's another thing if they have to bring ladders and trek miles, and then they've got to have some weird ass suit on so they look all weird when they get in your window. It's just that's too much work to punk your neighbors.
Yeah. And then you got to have your escape plan too. Say you did do all that work. Well, as soon as they saw it, they ran out the house to see what was going on. Well, of course there was nobody there at that point. So if you did punk the neighbors, then that means you got to grab your ladder and run away before
they see there's a ladder.
Before they can see you in that big old suit.
Well, that's the other thing. If they ran out as soon as they saw something and they thought it was somebody with a ladder or something, where the hell did the ladder go?
Exactly. You're going to see some kid running across. And you got to remember, this was a homestead. So it was, yes, there was hills and a couple of outbuildings and stuff. But all that had been cleared. And, you're running across a yard, basically. So they would have had to make that escape carrying a ladder in that suit for a long ways and to get out of line of sight. And it's just, it's not something that would happen. Not by any human I could imagine.
All right. So we're getting some feedback from the chat, and Jeff, A, I believe Bigfoot Yeti is real. B, I think this footage is fake. C, I think I am not 100% certain that this footage is fake. D, there's something that would make me believe it to be real, but I won't mention it here.
That is interesting about not mentioning.
You're no fun. You're no fun. Anyway.
And also Jeff mentioned that he must have missed it, but earlier Laura did make a walk by. So did the tiny tyrant, actually. But yeah, it's,
walk on. Now we got a creditor for the show on IMDb.
Yeah, she just walked from she brought me a cup of coffee and was making her way back into the bedroom. So, yeah, the Patterson video, like we just showed, it's, I think, the top tier video of them. There are other ones out there I think are credible, but the majority of them I think are can be debunked and discredited, and that's a shame as well, because it just leads to the whole idea that it's fake and that it's all made up and it's all a bunch of bull. And when you have these hoaxers out there pulling these videos and all that, that just leads more to it be, this takes away from the truth of it in my mind. It cheapens it, and it makes it easy to deny the truth of it. It's a shame.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's part of it though too. I mean, I think some of these fake videos, like some of the ones that we looked at, they were obviously fakes, but I think they're done on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to realize, if things like this exist, I mean, Bigfoot would literally be the missing link that everybody's been looking for if it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And it would turn so many things on its head with the way that we currently allow ourselves to understand religion, because it would also lend credence to the theory of evolution, which according to Christians can't have actually happened. I'm not one of those Christians, because I do believe that God set the universe in motion and put certain rules in place and said this is how things are going to go. But there's nothing in there that specifically said how long a day was.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a scripture in there that says a day in heaven is like 1,000 years on earth, but that doesn't make it an exact figure.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't, because that's when they go back and they read Genesis, and they're like, the whole universe was created. The whole universe and everything in it was created in 7 days, which for God would be 7,000 years. And we're like, so for me, I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. But you have biblical scholars who then try to go back and look at like the stuff with the Grand Canyon and everything else, and be like, some of these things that they're attributing to age are actually from the flood, and it's this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, I don't buy it. There's no reason that both things can't be true. Mm-hmm. There can be a creator of the universe who set things in motion and then left it on autopilot. It's one of the best explanations for why he's not here all the time going, hey, why are you fucking up? Because he made the universe. He put everything in order for it to run the way it was supposed to. And I don't know what else he's doing. I mean, that's the other thing that drives me nuts, is you get all the Christians that are like, there's no way there's any other intelligent life in the universe because God said he made us in his image. He didn't say we were the only things that he made, though. And even the Bible lends credence to the fact that there may be other creations in heaven and earth, because there are already creatures that we don't recognize here on earth that are in heaven. So who says he didn't make other things in other images, in other places? Why do we have to make everything so complicated? But
me and you could do another 2-hour show just on that topic right there, because I think we agree on a lot of things, especially the time of the age of the earth. Like you mentioned that scripture talking about how a day is like 1,000 years to the Lord, and 1,000 years is like unto a day. And in Genesis, when it talks about the creation of the first day, we think of a first day in 24-hour form because that's how we measure it now. But at that point, who's to say that first day could have been 10,000 years?
Or it could have been 10 million years for that matter.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just it. Go ahead, Amish.
No, well, on that topic too, I mean, some people believe that there is actually proof of Bigfoot in the Bible, and the story of Cain and his Esau. Esau was born covered in hair, and the Edomites were his descendants were generally believed to be covered in hair as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, there's that, and that's coming from the guy who isn't religious. So
No, I'm glad you brought that up because that actually was something that I planned on closing with, and I just realized we're pretty much there anyway. So
there we are.
so thank you. But
Y'all been
but
better 2 hours?
no, if it was any other Saturday night, I would probably be down to keep going until I ran out of gas. But I have done about 40 hours worth of broadcasting in 5 days.
Yeah. I was
I'm
just
done.
kidding, but like I said, I can
don't
do
hear
this all night. So go ahead.
What were you teasing me about, Amish? Because I know this is what you
I
were
said I don't
saying.
want to hear your sob stories, but unfortunately, because I do return back to work a week from Monday, I have to get back into my normal work sleep schedule. So, damn.
Yeah, talking about my sob stories. Now listen to yours.
Yeah, that's what I said. Enough of your sob stories. We're going to talk about mine now.
Oh, all right, Daniel. Since we are pretty much out of time, where can folks find you, sir?
Oh, I'm easy. It's bump stock Ken on X. That's all I really do as far as internet stuff goes, social media.
That's it. Nothing else.
I'm on I think Instagram too, but that's just really I don't really post much on there. It's just family stuff but X is where I have all the fun.
All right. So for those of you that are wanting to follow along, everything's scrolling along the bottom of the screen right now. You can follow along with the station at KLRNRadio. You can follow along with our new news source that I'm still struggling to find time to get off the ground at Digital Beacon US. You can follow along with me at RowdyRick73. And we have to do this properly. Hang on. Free Ordy, Elon, you bastard. All right. So I would say, where can folks find you, Amish? But we already know the answer to that question.
Yeah, but this coming week, you'll be able to find me on Tuesday night on Rancor Steve's Manorama panel. On Wednesday night with you, doing Rick and Ordy. I don't think... Is this the last Wednesday of the month? Are we doing
yeah. This coming.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
so we got Toxic Masculinity on Wednesday as well.
Wait,
I'm off
on.
Thursday.
I think I'm wrong on that. Hang on. I am wrong on that. Yeah, no, that's not till next.
No,
that's
okay.
not this week, but next week.
Yeah. So never mind.
yeah.
So just those two shows this week. Wait, no, I got Culture Shift on Thursday with Brad Slager as well.
Yeah,
all these on
The
KLRN
entertainment
Radio.
writer formerly known as Brad Slager.
Yeah, I forgot about
Brad with
that
the nice
too.
hair.
Yeah, we do the. You can find me on the Talk Murder to Me podcast as well here on every other Saturday night. So a week from today will be our next show.
Yep. Except you guys started an hour earlier.
Yeah, we started at 8 p.m. Central.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so we had kind of tossed this idea around for Halloween. So the plan that I kind of had, because we usually do 4 weeks for Juxtaposition. So I'm thinking we do regular schedule on the nights that you guys aren't on. And then since you guys had talked about wanting to collaborate, we do like 90 minutes on your show, 90 minutes on ours, and then call it good for those nights.
That's good. Do you want us to join you on your 90 minutes as well?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Basically, you guys get your 90 minutes, and then you guys will pitch in for the 90 minutes that we're for whatever topics we're talking about. Because I mean, Laura could probably do all 4 with us since she loves Halloween so much. She probably wouldn't care. But
that reminds me, we're getting to the point where we got to start spitballing what we're going to do for the Rocktober juxtapositions and start studying.
Yeah, and hopefully we can figure out something that doesn't get us cursed, because I'd like to actually finish them.
Yeah. So, because for those of you new to the show, in October we do this every weekend of the month, and one year the forces of the universe aligned against us, where everything prevented us from doing it.
Sorry about that. I didn't actually mean to hit that button yet.
And then the year before, we did one on demons and demonology, and we suffered for it. I mean, it was anyway. So, but yeah, so we got to figure out a topic for this Halloween, this Rocktober. Also, we're gonna try and do the panel show we keep trying to do in 2 weeks. Hopefully, the forces of the universe will allow us to do it, because this is a show we've been trying to do for 2 years. And
We may just try to convince Mickey to pre-record his portions and I can mix them in somehow.
right. No, he should be back by then.
So I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, folks. Well, as far as where you can find me, I'll be back tomorrow night doing the Rick Robinson Show right here on KLRNRadio. We should actually have our website back up here I'm hoping by morning, but since we got all this done over the weekend, I don't know how long it takes for them to fix everything. But I already responded to the ticket that we had open to be like, hey, I fixed it. When are you going to fix it? So we'll see. And then so after that, Monday through Friday next week, the Rick Robinson Show, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday nights, I produce for Brad and Aggie on the Cocktail Lounge. That is 8:30 p.m. Eastern, otherwise known as Aggie time. Wednesday nights, the Whatever Show with myself and Stacy kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then I produce for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show at 8 p.m. Eastern, which should be back. Then we have a hole in programming, so it may be me again doing a bonus off the rails if I can't convince Andrew to come hang out for a while. Then after that, it'll be myself and Orty doing Rick and Orty for the night, as he just discussed, as our closing act on Chat Lives Matter night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, back doing Jen and Rick, 10 p.m. Eastern. Friday night, back around hanging around with Aggie, doing He Said, She Said again at Aggie time. Then producing for Talk Murder to Me on Wednesday night. And then back around doing Rails on Sunday again. When I'm not doing all of that, you can find me as your contributor on twitchy.com, misfitspolitics.com, and the loftuspartypodcast.com. And I'm also the executive producer of the Loftus Party Podcast. And I've been drinking too much for you to do that to me, sir. Screwed up my vibe. And you can also follow along with me on most social media platforms at RowdyRick73. The only one that's different is Insta, and that's at RowdyRick1973 because I got locked out of the old account because I didn't have access to email anymore to fix it. I think that's it. And if it's not, holy shit, that's too much anyway. So, died everybody. We're going out the same way we came in. That's what I was trying to get set up a second ago.
Hail Hydra.
Bigfoot roaming out of sight. Government shadows, secrets deep, conspiracies unfold while we sleep. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out that really chain. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling history, stories untold. Area 51, a whispered name. UFO sightings, a haunting flame. Loch Ness monster, a watery myth. Cryptozoology, a curious gift. Strange encounters unexplained.